All right. Good morning, everybody, and happy race day. We got the Cup Series at Michigan International Speedway. It's a 2 mile intermediate oval. We got 200 laps. So, what does that mean for Dominator points? It means we got 50 points for laps led and 90 points for fast laps. As far as kind of what data we are looking at to try to figure out what drivers we want more of, what drivers we want less of, it's really just let's look at practice, let's look at qualifying, and then let's look at the 2022 data at some of these higher speed intermediate tracks or 2 mile tracks or just fast tracks. So Auto Club, Las Vegas, Kansas, Charlotte, maybe even Dover and Darlington to an extent, Pocono. um, really just trying to factor in all of these, especially if we're in between maybe one driver or a couple of drivers leaning us one way versus the other. So the other thing we have to be mindful of is the pole sitter trend that we've been seeing recently at the Cup Series. It seems like the pole sitter has been making the optimal lineup more often than not. So be interesting now that Bubba Wallace is on the pole. If that trend is going to continue. The other trend will be interesting to see is Michigan has historically been the team to beat when we get to Michigan. Um, or Ford has been the team to beat when we get to Michigan. But I don't know. I have a pretty hard time seeing a Ford going into victory lane. Even the sports books have them at they're like plus 450, I think, and the other manufacturers, had much better odds. So we'll see if Ford can continue that. But really the main takeaway after practice was, wow, the Toyota teams are fast. They have it dialed in, and we really want to focus on trying to just jam in as many Toyota drivers as possible. So who are some of these guys? So if you look at the top range from Chase Elliott down to Ross Chastain, I think most people are probably going to go with Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, and that's what most likely we're going to be doing too. It's hard to ignore, how fast the Toyotas were. I think Kyle Busch will probably be one of the highest, if not, the highest owned driver, especially for tournaments. He's been extremely fast on similar track types. He had great, times in practice, and he has Christopher Bell and Bubba Wallace in front of him, and neither of them are slouches by any means. But if Kyle Busch is able to get in front of him, I feel like the field's going to have a hard time passing him again. So when it comes to tournaments, then I think if you want to get different, I think Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson are interesting. I think we're going to see their ownership come in a lot lower than we normally would on a typical race weekend. So if you're looking for a pivot, I still think you should try to get as many Toyota drivers in your lineup as possible. But if you're looking to maybe fade a Toyota driver or just, get a little bit different with your line, you know, plug in a Chase Elliott, plug in a Kyle Larson to get a little bit different. Ross Chastain's interesting. He, normally starting 22nd at $10,000 with how fast he's been all year, I would just immediately plug him in. He's probably going to be hard to get away from in cash games, but for tournaments, I think I'm going to be under the weight on the field on Chastain. His practice times weren't great. You can never count him out, but I'd much rather take the upside of Denny Hamlin or Kyle Busch for roughly the same price. And then getting to the 9K range, again, really cool to see Tyler Reddick win. We were in Indy, so it was cool to see him win on the road course. Our seats were right in turn one, so we saw all the nonsense that happened in that corner. So that was fun from a fan's perspective. But this week, I don't really see ourselves getting to him. I'd much rather, $9,700 for Tyler Reddick starting sixth. It's just a hard pill to swallow. Much rather go to Truex in a Toyota for $200 cheaper, starting one spot further back. He's been top 10 in practice. He comes a little bit of a discount to Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin. So he's another interesting pivot if you are trying to get away from either of those drivers. Just hop down the Truex. It's more or less, the same play. Blaney's going to be an interesting cash games option. I like him for tournaments too, especially as a pivot off of Ross Chastain. I think Ross Chastain potentially might get more ownership, so you get a nice discount with Blaney there. His practice times looked decent too, and his other Penske teammates qualified up towards the front. So Penske has figured something out with those other two cars. You would imagine it's going to carry over to Blaney today. Byron's going to be a tough one to get to. He didn't really have much speed in practice. He didn't really qualify great either. Him and Alex Bowman have both been struggling a little bit as of late. But it's, we'll talk about Bowman here in a bit. Bell's going to be another driver I like a lot. They really trimmed him out. Looks like he was going to get the pole until Bubba Wallace came around and barely squeaked out that pole position. So he's got the clean air. He has, the race position on track. Track position is key. If this race goes green, he could very easily get the jump on Bubba Wallace and be the stage one lap leader. Or, hey, he'll slot in right behind Bubba Wallace and just stay, in the top 5, top 10 all day. So I like that upside. He's a lot cheaper than all the other JGR cars. He's the cheapest JGR car we have. Not really going to get to Logano. Suarez and Harvick, I think, are low-owned GPP plays. They just get different. I wouldn't put them in a single line if you're just building one line, but if you're building, if you're doing a 20 max or even 150 max, I think you need to have some ownership to Suarez and Harvick. Bowman's going to be a driver who's extremely chalky today. He qualified very poor. If you look at his recent performances, they have been absolutely terrible. But at $8,200 for Hendrick Carr starting 30th, who was top 10 in practice, it's just going to be hard to get away from. He's super easy to fit in lines. It's really easy to fit him with some of those Toyota plays that we like. So I think that he's just a play you kind of have to slot in. Not really going to get to Jones or Cindric. I just don't think they have enough upside. Briscoe's interesting. He's having a great year. I think we expect him to be more of a place differential play. It just kind of comes down to, how high can you see him finishing? But again, I'd much rather just kind of take more of the risk and the higher upside play and just drop down and take Bubba Wallace on the pole. Every single, all 6 of the Toyota cars qualified in the top 11. All of them basically almost made it to that second round of qualifying. So they have this package dialed in. We know they're going to be fast. He doesn't really have to do a ton to hit to hit value at that range. He has the best chance of being the early lap leader. He's extremely cheap. He's easy to fit in lines. And this could be a great day for Bubba Wallace, and that'd be pretty cool to see. Austin Dillon's could be a little bit more of a place differential play. He's another easy driver to fit in lines at $7,300. Maybe a potential pivot off of Alex Bowman if you want to get off of that chalky play, but Dillon's going to be relatively chalky too. Buescher's could be more of a GPP option. Kozlowski will probably be pretty high owned, but if anyone of the PD plays we want to fade, it would probably be Brad. It's just that team has just been struggling all year. So even though he starts deep, I don't really have too much confidence he can finish, really any higher than probably like 25th, 24th, unless things get crazy. He's on a different strategy. Fuel mileage comes into it. It's possible, but Almirola is really cheap this week at $6,800. He was top 10 in practice. I think he offers some PD upside. I think he's a little bit more of a GPP play, but you just got to be mindful. Yeah, you need to have, you want to have some place differential plays in there. So for me, it's going to be tough to get to Almirola because my place differential plays, at least for the lines that I'm building so far, have been deeper on the slate. One of those place differential plays is going to be Stenhouse. Stenhouse's practice times and even his qualifying times are a little concerning. But if you look at the other like intermediate tracks, some of those tracks that we were talking about that we want to kind of use as data points and references, I think Stenhouse is a guy that kind of pops off. Historically, this year he's been starting deep, but he's been netting, top 10 finishes. And, if he can do that or even finish, 15th at that price, I think that it's going to be a great day for you. Really interested in Ty Gibbs too. He won the Xfinity race It looked like probably Gregson or Allgaier potentially might win if it would have went green longer, or if Gregson would have went for the win instead of the stage points. But nonetheless, Gibbs won. This is the third time he's in this car. He's got practice. He's getting more familiar, and he qualified 11th. So you're more or less, Gibbs is a talented driver. He's still extremely inexperienced when it comes to the Cup cars, but he has a fast car, and he's super cheap at $6,600. So um, I really like him as a tournament play. I like his upside. A lot of risk maybe that comes there, but again, it's really just plug in as many Toyotas as you can and then fit in the place differential plays around them. Um, and then from there, McDowell, Hill, Custer, Burton, Haley, Dillon, Gregson. Not really going to get to any of them. I think once you get pretty low on the slate, I think really the only two viable drivers, in my opinion, are going to be Corey LaJoie and Todd Gilliland. Todd Gilliland starts DFL. He literally can't hurt you. It was really cool to see him get a top 5 in Indy last week. Super easy to fit in lines, easy place differential play. He's going to be high owned. So if you're looking to, fade Gilliland, if you hope that maybe he has an issue, I think Corey LaJoie would then be kind of your pivot play. So yeah, that'll do it for the Cup Series at Michigan. Apologize for not getting a video out for the Xfinity Series yesterday. I was out hiking at a national park, which was fun. So I didn't get to see the race. Probably will be out and about today, so I probably won't get to see this race either. But best of luck to everybody in the tournaments today. If you guys have any lineup questions, feel free to hit us up on Twitter. It's at FastCarsFM. More than welcome to drop some comments in the comment section of YouTube below, and I'll try to get back to you guys before the end of the slate. But yeah, good luck and happy race day.